So you talked about pseudo-aristocracy. I found that a very important word. And yet, when I think about it, the framers of the Constitution were also aristocrats in a very important sort of way. And even if they had not inherited that aristocracy, they understood themselves to be elite members of society. Were they therefore being hypocritical in all this talk about of the people?
The framers were very careful in not allowing there to be a rule by the majority, because upon reflecting on Roman precedent, English precedent, and the precedent set in the French Revolution, they realized that an excess of democracy could lead to mobocracy and eventually result in creating a tyrant. So while they created this pseudo-aristocracy because, as Gouverneur Morris stated, they wanted to suppress the turbulence of democracy.
Aristocratic features are seen in our Constitution. For example, in Article 2, with the creation of the Electoral College, by allowing the state legislatures to appoint electors in any way they choose, they in a sense created a political elite to be able to select the president. And additionally, in the original form of the Constitution, prior to the passage of the 17th Amendment, the Senate did consist of appointed senators and not elected senators.
So is that an argument that to be consistent with republicanism, the Senate should be revised to reflect popular majorities rather than states?
It is necessary to have a legislative body to reflect the interests of the states, and this was necessary in the framing of the Constitution to create a compromise between the large states and the small states, because having representation based only on population would have given an unfair advantage to large states.
But I'm talking about today. We could amend this Constitution today. Why should California have 2 senators when Rhode Island has 2 senators?
This was a part of the Great Compromise of the Constitutional Convention, which was a mesh of the small states' interests and the large state interests. However, in order to have some sort of equality for the smaller states, California does have greater representation in the House of Representatives. However, in the Senate, it is necessary to provide equality for the smaller states, as well as to have a national interest in mind that the Senate be composed of only 2 senators versus proportionally.
This is because the Senate is supposed to represent state interests, and the House is supposed to represent the people's interests.
Would we not hope that the senators would represent the national interest? Could we criticize the people who are letting us use this room for focusing too much on political interest rather than on the good of the nation?
In fact, the absence of a life tenure for the Senate ties the senators to the needs of the people. So because they are constantly thinking of re-election, they would not ignore the whims of the people, the thoughts of the people in making their decisions.
Well played. Well said.
Thank you. It's over, but everything we have to say doesn't help you one bit as you move forward. Nonetheless, we are asked to give you some feedback.
You know, there's no substitute for good preparation. You know the materials really, really well. And you know, not only do you know the history, but you really, really understand the Constitution. Trying to take you back to the past, take you forward to the future, to the present. I think you did a really, really nice. You really, really clearly know the material.
So it was a great discussion. I wish we could have kept on going with this all day. I'm sure that you're quite happy that we're not going to go on all day with it. Just one small point. King George gets a really bad reputation because of all the nasty things that he said about it at the time. He was recognized as one of the great kings, at least one of the pretty good kings of England. And you know, he didn't go mad until well after this whole event. And another small detail: the French Revolution, although it's going to be a very important role in the how American jurisprudence and law unfolds. It hadn't happened yet. So I think you mentioned that somewhere. That's just a really small thing. But I thought overall, and in fact, in a great many details, you had this extraordinarily good presentation. I was delighted to be part of it.
I agree. I think it was very, very well done. The places that I would push you are to think a little harder about whether the Roman legislature really did parallel the United States Congress. I think there's a difference maybe in significance between 2 separate legislative bodies and one legislative body divided into 2 houses. But you could feel free to argue that one with me anytime you want. It's okay not to be an apologist for the status quo. It's okay to think of ways that we can make things better. There are a lot of people who are very pessimistic and saying that the United States is going exactly down the path of Rome. And if we don't pay attention now, we're not going to survive. And so it's okay to use your very fine minds to think of ways to make it better, not simply demonstrating why the status quo is okay. You're the kind of minds that I want working on the fix, because you're just so darn smart, and it's just such a pleasure to get to spend time with you and think about these weighty matters. Thank you so much.